Jake LaMotto grew up from a hard background, stealing to survive, dealing with the mafia, and living a life of crime that eventually landed him into a reformatory school. He would always be fighting, whether it was for money or for survival. Every day he lived to fight. That was Jake LaMotto, the Bronx Bull.
Nobody ever heard me in the ring.
Chapter 1. Jake LaMotto before boxing. Jake LaMotto was born July 10th, 1922, in Manhattan, New York City. Jake LaMotto's parents were connected to immigrated family line coming from Italy. His father, Joseph LaMotto, forced his sons to fight with other boys in the neighborhood. Jake's father would be among many fathers who would bet pocket change and would take home what they wanted to pay for rent. Little did Jake LaMotto know this would be a start to his long career. Jake would later be sent to a reformatory school in upstate New York City for attempted robbery. This is where Jake would learn the sport of boxing. Chapter 2. Jake LaMotto's professional career. Jake would go undefeated as amateur boxer, beating down every opponent he ever faced. Jake would turn to professional boxing where he would enter as a middleweight. He would go 14-0-1, losing to a controversial decision against Jimmy Reeves, and the crowd would boo for 20 minutes straight. They would fight again, but Jake would lose to Jimmy again by decision. The third fight would go different though. Jake LaMotto would send Reeves to the canvas in the 6th round. Jimmy Reeves would not be able to get up. One of the most important, if not his most important part of his career was LaMotto versus Robinson 1. This fight was set for 10 rounds. The first round would start, LaMotto would come out throwing left and right hooks, being the aggressive fighter. LaMotto would land multiple shots that hurt Robinson in the first round. But after the first round, Robinson started to take over, and the fight would go the distance. Unfortunately, Jake LaMotto would lose by unanimous decision. But what would be his all-time career highlight was Jake LaMotto versus Ray Robinson 2. The fight was set for 10 rounds. You could see Jake changed from the first fight. Instead of going for the head like he did in the first fight, he targeted the body, breaking Robinson down slowly. In the 8th round, LaMotto would send Robinson through the ropes. However, the round would end, and Robinson would be able to survive until the end of the fight. Jake LaMotto would win by unanimous decision. This is where things get tricky. LaMotto would be fighting Billy Fox, which was a fixed fight from the start. Billy Fox was owned by Frank Blinky Palermo. Frank was known for fixing big fights and owning many prize fighters, making them fight fixed fights. Fox would beat LaMotto by knockout in the 4th round, but due to suspicions that this fight was fixed, the FBI did an investigation, which later LaMotto would explain that he threw this fight so that he would have a chance of fighting French champion Marcel Cerdan. LaMotto would go on to say, "The first round, a couple belts to his head, and I see glassy looks coming over his eyes. Jesus Christ, a couple of jabs, and he's going to fall down. I began to panic a little. I was supposed to be throwing a fight. This guy. And it looked like I was going to end up holding him on his feet. By the 4th round, if there was anybody in the garden who didn't know this was happening, he must have been dead drunk." LaMotto vs. Cerdan was an exciting fight. In the first round, LaMotto would knock down Cerdan, which later was said that Cerdan actually had his shoulder dislocated, which in turn caused Marcel Cerdan to not throw as much. Due to this, before the 10th round started, Cerdan didn't want to fight anymore, giving LaMotto the win by referee technical decision. LaMotto would go on to defend his title 2 times, winning both of them before losing to Ray Robinson. Jake LaMotto decided it was time to move up to light heavyweight, but unfortunately it wasn't like the middleweight for him. He didn't dominate this weight division. Eventually he decided to retire after fighting Billy Kilgore in 1954. Jake LaMotto was a beast in the ring, that's why he got the name Raging Bull. He came out throwing hard left and right hooks, and he took a beating himself. Eventually, he became recognized as having one of the best chins in boxing. Jake LaMotto was nothing shorter than a boxing legend, from petty crimes to professional boxing, dealing with the mafia, and winning middleweight title. Jake LaMotto, the Bronx Bull.